Good morning, everyone. I am so happy to talk to you today on Friday. So we are rolling into our first weekend together. Next week, we'll talk about weekend strategies because I just want to see what happens this week when you're starting to get a little bit more mindful. Right now, we are going to go over a few tracking frequently asked questions and also a few tips. Leanne has hopped on, so I'll have her request to join and we will get rocking. Actually, maybe I can add you here. Nope, I can't do that. But anyway, hopefully by now you are logging your food. And that brings me to the point of logging your food and tracking your macros are two different things. Okay, when you're logging your food, you're just entering your food. You're not necessarily working to hit any sort of targets. Tracking your macros is when you are working to hit your grams. So if you have not seen this screen yet, for most of you, if it's your first round, I sent over to you percentages. I said eat 2,000 calories, 30% protein, 30% carbs, 40% fat. That's just an example. So you may be looking at your pie chart because you're like, oh, percentages. But I honestly do not care about percentages. I care about the grams. So when you scroll down to the bottom, you can click nutrients. You will see your grams broken out. And I just want to see what happens if I push this button. Guest request, add. Here we go, Leanne. Add. It's adding Leanne right now. We'll get back to talking about this. But grams is where it's at. Let me tell you why. So if I prescribe 2,000 calories and here she comes. Hey, lady.
Hi there.
So I'm just talking about grams versus percentages.
Great.
If I prescribe 2,000 calories for you and you hit your percentages, let's say you do hit that 30, 30, 40, but your grams are way off, that means you're not eating enough. So you can hit your percentages, but be severely under eating. And I don't know that unless we're able to look at the grams for you. If you're not familiar with the grams screen, Leanne and I will show you how to get there. And that's actually the screen that you're going to be sharing with us. When you see those screens shared, remember, do not compare what someone else's macros are to yours, especially like mine and Leanne's, because we have trained our bodies to be able to eat more, or maybe some days we're eating less for different reasons. So just know that you have your macros for a reason, and that's your starting off point. Let's see. So Leah, do you want to go into tip number 1 about like eating protein early?
Yeah. So I think what usually happens, especially if you're new to tracking macros, is it seems like a lot of protein. Okay. That's going to help to curb hunger, especially if you're in a calorie deficit. So protein is going to be really the first thing you want to focus on when tracking macros. And that is going to be kind of a strategy for each individual. For me, I'm in the office for 10 to 12 hours a day. And so I have found that it is really useful to pack my proteins in really early on in the day so that I'm not constantly playing catch up on my protein grams. So I eat a very heavy protein breakfast so that I stay ahead in my proteins, because I know that number is going to be the most difficult for me to reach for my macros. I know, Kylie, you kind of spread your proteins out a little bit differently, but it's going to be different for each person. I do recommend, especially if you're going to an office all day long, try to put your proteins kind of early on in the day, see where you get from there, and then make the adjustments. But protein numbers is going to be the first thing that you want to shoot for.
Absolutely. And that brings us to a really great point. If this is something that is new to you, don't worry about hitting, first of all, any of your numbers this week, but focus on hitting that protein number first. We can worry about the fats and carbs later. You're probably eating more fat than you realize, like you thought you were eating a low-fat diet, unless you're on purpose, like you know that you like fats. Most of us are eating more fat than we realize, maybe not as many carbs as we realize, and definitely not as much protein as we thought we were. So just worry about one number at a time. And really, as long as you're hitting your calories and your protein number, you're in a really good spot. Carbs and fats don't matter quite as much for what we are trying to accomplish. And yeah, like Leanne and I do things totally differently. I eat probably I eat most of my calories after 5 o'clock at night. That's just the way my day is. But you'll find
Yeah.
a way to make it work for you.
And we'll start to like, especially this week when we're starting to track with the proteins, share what protein sources you're eating. Sometimes you just have to make an adjustment to like find a leaner protein, but the proteins are kind of like your home base when you start tracking.
Absolutely. And that you're probably eating all the right foods. You're eating stuff that you need to eat. But like Leanne just said, we're just going to adjust the portions a little bit. You're eating chicken, you're eating tofu if you're a vegan, you're eating whatever, eggs, etc. But you may just need to bump that up. But then once you bump some of those things up, you're like, oh my gosh, but my fats went up. So then it's this game. Okay, this much more turkey breast takes my fat up. So where do I need to cut that fat, or where can I find a leaner source of protein? Is it more egg whites, etc.? And then
Yep.
Leanne talked about entering in things first. If you are new to this, enter in your entire day. Just do a sample day and see where you're at, so you can make adjustments in the beginning of the day and not try and figure it out at the end of the day.
Exactly. Another great thing about entering it before you eat it, especially when it comes to like treats, you see the treat where Kylie has mentioned this already. This is not about restriction and saying, no, I can't have whatever it is. Enter it before you eat it. I do this all the time. I see something, I'm like, ooh, that looks really good. I put it into my Fitness Pal and I say, is it worth it? Is it not worth it? And then you can kind of make a decision from there.
It's so true. Like I used to eat licorice like it was going out of style. But you enter in 3 pieces of licorice, a serving of licorice, and you realize what that does to your carbs, and you're like, oh, I'd rather have like a big ass bowl of oatmeal. Like I'm gonna be
Yep.
fuller longer. It's just the decisions start to be made for you.
Yep.
Here's a question that has come up already. Should I enter exercise into my Fitness Pal? What's the answer to that, Leanne?
Do not enter exercise into my Fitness Pal. It's kind of weird because like if you do that, the system will default to award you back calories, and that's not what this is about. You don't want to be spinning a hamster wheel, basically. So tracking macros, you're not going to enter in any exercise. I have premium versions, so I have the ability to turn off exercise because my Fitbit is connected to the app in some way. But really, my recommendation is just to keep the two independent if you have both, and you don't want to have the exercise tracking on.
No. And there's a couple reasons for that. First of all, we don't want our exercise. It's not like we can exercise and earn more food. Also, you guys, calorie counts are so inaccurate. Your Fitbit, it's great for tracking your heart rate and things like that, but you honestly do not know how many calories you're burning because of so many variables. That screen you see on the treadmill, that's a bunch of bullshit. Those are not necessarily calories burned. Like, who is that based off of? Even if it has like your height and your weight, it's dependent on so many things. How conditioned are you? The more conditioned you are, guess what? The less calories you burn while you're doing your cardio. What is your body composition? Like there's so many variables, so start to worry less about calories in general and hit the grams. What else on that? I feel like I have one more thing to say about calories and grams. Oh,
Well, if you are hitting your grams, mathematically, you're basically hitting your calories as well. Each different macronutrient has like a mathematical translation to calories. There's going to be variations for things like fiber and sugars and stuff like that. But really, if you are shooting for the gram goal, you're going to notice that calories falls into place.
yes. And just Amanda, I'll answer your question in just a second. For those of you who may not know this, 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. 1 gram of carbohydrates is 4 calories. So those two are equal. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So when we say something's calorie dense, chances are it's got fat in it. So Amanda asked, do you like to reduce carb fat macros on rest days? For the majority of the people in this group, no. For my people who I have introduced to carb cycling, some of them have rest day macros. If I'm in a maintenance mode or a surplus, I will have rest day macros. Amanda's been tracking forever. You do what you feel comfortable with. But for new people, I do not do rest day macros just because I want them to get the hang of things to begin with. That's a strategy we implement in second round and beyond. Let's talk about weighing the food for, in a volume of like a cup and a half cup or grams. Like Leanne, if you're gonna have oatmeal, how would you track that or weigh it?
I would weigh grams. I almost always weigh in grams now.
Mm-hmm.
And I would weigh oatmeal dry
Mm-hmm.
first. Um, and then I would make sure that how I'm logging it into MyFitnessPal is the dry oatmeal version in grams. So,
Absolutely. So I'll take a picture. I had oatmeal this morning. I'm gonna eat it. I'm making it right now. I measured out a serving, which is 44 grams, weighed 44 grams out, added it to the water, and I'll eat it when it's done. Now, the rice I ate last night, that was actually a cooked measurement. As long as what you're entering in MyFitnessPal is what you actually ate, you're okay.
yep.
So look for like this jasmine rice that I bought. It was, I don't know, Gold Star jasmine rice cooked. So that's what I look for in MyFitnessPal. Oh, the scanner codes. You want to talk about scanners, Leanne?
Yeah, so really anything that comes in a package, you can actually just click the scanner. It's usually in the top right of your MyFitnessPal phone app, and you can scan it, and it'll already pull all the macros in automatically, and then you just say yes, and it adds it to your log. Which is really, really useful if you're eating any packaged foods, you know, like the Greek yogurts and things like that. Oatmeal is a great example. That way you're not searching, because MyFitnessPal will have a lot of different versions of things. You want to be looking for like an approved by MyFitnessPal version. I believe it has like a little green mark next to it that says, yes, this macro count has been approved and checked, basically. But you're going to notice there's a lot of information in there. So the scanner is a great way to keep it as accurate as possible. Another thing I would say is I wouldn't scan in beverages into MyFitnessPal. We don't want to track beverages the same way, and there's a little bit more that goes into tracking when it comes to like alcoholic beverages that we'll go into a little bit later on.
Yes, we'll touch on that next Thursday. A great point that I was just thinking of was regarding, oh my gosh, what was it? Oh, accuracy. So anytime I post something, people want to know, how do you track that? Here's the deal, you guys. Be as accurate as you can when you can. So if it has a barcode, great. If it has a green check mark, great. So that when you have to guess a little bit, it's not that big of a deal. Things that you want to be super accurate on are things that are fat dense. So try not to just guess how many almonds you're eating. Use a serving of them. Salad dressings. If you're using salad dressing, try and accurately track them. You'll notice the meals that I post, I don't typically use a recipe. I use a protein. I season it however I want. I use a vegetable. I season it however I want with minimal fat. And then I accurately measure the carb, the starchy carb that goes with it. So recipes are fantastic, but if you are new to tracking macros, make it easy on yourself so that you can be more accurate. And then when it comes to eating out, luckily a lot of restaurants actually have their information on MyFitnessPal, like Chipotle does, Chili's does, Red Robin does. But when you go out to eat, you're going to have to guess the best that you can. If you go like a nicer restaurant that's not a chain, chances are they don't. You need to look at your plate and start eyeballing. I wonder how many ounces of chicken that is. So start really paying attention. What does 4, 5, 6 ounces of chicken look like on your plate and on your scale in comparison to your measurement of your hand? What does a cup of rice or 100, 200 grams of rice look like? Start to pay attention so when you go out to eat, you can more accurately or make a more informed guess.
Yep. And it's not always going to be perfect, you know, just best guess is really the best you can do.
Mm-hmm.
If you are doing meal prep services, as far as tracking and accuracy goes there, I do Blue Apron 3 nights a week just because of the way my evening schedules it are. All the Blue Apron recipes, there's a bunch of other services. Those are all in MyFitnessPal. All you need to do is make sure that you're typing in the recipe like exactly as it's stated on the recipe card, and they should all be in MyFitnessPal, so you don't have to enter in all the individual ingredients. If I'm doing a recipe, I will enter in usually individual ingredients. You can also build out a recipe if you think you're going to use it again. But typically I do the same thing as Kylie. It's a protein or, you know, protein with a seasoning and then a veggie and maybe like a starch, depending on what I have left.
Absolutely. Yeah, and don't get bogged down too much in the details of it. Like, especially when you don't have control. Entering something is always better than entering nothing. And the fact that you're being mindful of it is going to work in your benefit leaps and bounds. One last note on like random things. This came up in like one of the very, very first rounds. My friend Tara, she was eating a chef salad and she just typed in chef salad. You wouldn't, I mean, the macros on it were insane and she couldn't understand why she couldn't hit her numbers. And I'm like looking at her stuff and I'm like, well, this chef salad, like what exactly was in your chef salad? You guys understand how many different variations of a chef salad there could be based on ingredients, based on size, all the stuff? When you're eating, let's say, a chef salad, break it down. If you're eating like iceberg lettuce, it's basically zero of anything. I'm not going to bother with that. But the cheese, okay, how much cheese is this? How many eggs is this? How much bacon bits? How much blue cheese dressing? How much chicken is on this? That's when you want to break it down. Do not just put chef salad because that's zero accuracy. So just heads up on that.
I would also say when tracking, especially if you're brand new, keep it as simple as possible. Recipes are great, variety is great, but the more kind of simple and consistent you keep it, it's going to be a little bit easier in the beginning.
Absolutely. And in addition to like the meal prep services like a Blue Apron, if you are using like a local meal prep service to get like your lunches. So locally we have a Ready Fit Go or a Fit Republic. Wherever you live, you have one of these places. Or Icon Meals delivers right to your door. This Kettlebell Kitchen delivers right to your door. You're going to know the macros on those meals. And I always say to my most busy people, if that's something you can fit into your budget, do it. Why not make it easier on yourself? You know?
Yep.
It's just like macros. Save somewhere else so that you can make it work.
It definitely helps.
Yeah. And that's really, so another name for tracking macros, right, is flexible dieting. It's flexible because you can move things around to fit in 3 Twizzlers, a serving of ice cream, a couple cocktails. It all becomes a fun game. And that's why Leanne likes it, right?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I'm an accountant. I like numbers. I like problem solving numbers and puzzles. So, try to not take it too seriously. It's kind of like a game, really. And I think some of you will find that it's kind of a fun game, especially if you're logging things before and you're like, I'm going to stick to this. It can be fun too.
Yes. And anytime, it's okay if it doesn't feel fun to you, but anytime it feels like a stressor and you're like, it's making you neurotic, step away. And I want you to go back to your 5 habits because it's not worth it. You could reach your goals without tracking. But I will say this, tracking is amazing for awareness. So even if you don't want to track, log your food in some way. Log it in a journal, log it in MyFitnessPal. There's a couple other apps out there. But just so you can start to really see, again, just like a budget, you don't know how much you're spending where unless you sit down and look at it. Like how many times am I stopping at 7-Eleven after work to get a protein shake and a Diet Coke? I don't know who does that.
At least you're getting a protein shake. The protein shake's great.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You can do a lot worse. Absolutely. Oh, that's usually my go-to. I'll stop in, I'll get a protein bar and some other sort of beverage. Might be a Monster. I'm not going to say. You guys make me tired.
Did you already talk about plus or minus 5 grams?
No, will you please talk about that? I did not.
Yeah. So as Kylie was talking about the macronutrients screen, versus the pie chart, on that macronutrients screen, I think it's labeled nutrients. Is that right? On MyFitnessPal. The ideal, hitting macros when you're starting especially, is to really go for a plus or minus 5 grams on the carbs, fats, and proteins. So, we talked about hitting the numbers. That's kind of where we're going, is we want to be plus or minus 5 grams.
Yes. So you do have a little bit more wiggle room, which is really, really nice.
Yep.
No, that's cool. Yeah, go ahead.
And then also if you there's been in prior sessions, someone will get to the end of the day and they're like, I have so many protein grams left. It says I have 25 grams left. I don't want to sit here and have a bowl of egg whites for dessert, at 10 o'clock at night. So you're going to see that it's not plus or minus 5 grams sometimes. And that is the point where, you basically need to make a decision. Yes, you can sit there, you can eat the bowl of egg whites. I would be lying if I said I haven't done it before.
Same, yeah.
But, but is that really what you want to do? So, maybe use it as a learning tool, right? So here's where I ended today, 25 grams short on protein. Instead of stuffing my face with chicken or whatever, I'm going to make note of what did I do today, and maybe I can increase a portion or something like that and tackle it tomorrow. Each day is a new day when it comes to the macros. So that goal is just today's goal. Next day, you get to start fresh again. So plus or minus 5 grams, yes, but you still have the ability to make a decision come the end of the day.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't need to stuff your face at the end of the day, just to hit your numbers. You can, but you don't have to.
Yep.
Oh God, I had a really great point. Okay, so this question is going to come up. I hit all my grams. Why are my calories so off? Remember how I just said that the calorie counts are a bunch of BS? Not only does it apply to calories burned on your Fitbit, calories burned on a treadmill, it also has to do with the calories on your packaging because of FDA rules, okay? FDA does not have to be super accurate. They can round up or down to the nearest 5. So you better believe most of them are rounding down. So you are way, way better off paying attention to the macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fats in your food than the calories. And also MyFitnessPal does some different things with fiber and sugars, but focus on the big 3. And while we're talking about those sorts of things, sugar. I really don't care how many grams of sugar that you eat per day, so long as your overall carb number is in balance. It's a really good idea to, at a minimum, eat 20 to 25 grams of fiber a day. I think you'll run into issues if you're not. Be mindful of that number. 20 to 25, that's low end grams of fiber per day, just to keep all systems moving.
We want that.
Yes. Everything to flow. Do you want to talk about the Eat This Much app?
Sure. Yeah. So I think, did you already share it in the group? I'm not sure. Okay. So the Eat This Much app is kind of neat because you can actually put in like, this is what my macros are, and then the system will generate different meal ideas that you could potentially try to fit your macros. It's kind of a neat way if you're wondering like, okay, this is what I have left for dinner for my macros. You punch it in, and then it'll generate a recipe that works for that macro count. I've used this when I am trying to add a little bit of variety into my recipes and things like that. So it's a really useful app, but again, you want to keep it as simple as possible. I'd say the Eat This Much website does keep the recipes very simple, which is really helpful. But if you're new to tracking, it's a great idea to figure out, what you need to be eating or what you could potentially be eating. Another thing is to really take a look in the Facebook group, because we're going to be sharing what we're eating. We're going to be sharing our macros, our protein sources, our fats, our carbs. These are going to be like daily posts for a little while. What are your protein sources today and things like that. So take a look at what other people are eating. If you don't know what it is, ask the question. I think one session I saw someone was eating hemp hearts or whatever. And I was like, what is that? Maybe it's something you want to try in your eating. So the Eat This Much app is great. The Facebook group is great. We want to keep it so that you don't feel like you're just eating chicken all the time, or you have to eat a bunch of protein shakes to make your numbers or whatever that is. We want to potentially have those things in our diet, if you're a meat eater or whatever, but we want other ideas, right? So that's what we're here for. We want to share those ideas, share your recipes. Eat This Much is a great app, a great tool for that.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. And like I said, next weekend or next Thursday and Friday, we'll start talking about weekend strategies and how you can be proactive with your macros so that you can enjoy some more things. If you've got a party coming up, or any sort of special event, you're going to a football game. But we'll talk about that. I don't want to go too much longer. if you guys have questions, post them in the comments section of the video, and we will get back to you. This is just the beginning. So if you're feeling like we got you, okay, we got you. We got both your hands held, and we'll walk you through this process. First 2 weeks can be rough. I mean, anytime I change my macros, I'm like, oh,
Yep.
it's hard. But give yourself that grace, and remember, you're learning something new, and
Yep.
it takes some time to learn. Do you have any other final thoughts, Leanne?
No, just be patient, trust the process, give it a shot. It's going to feel difficult at first.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not going to lie. I thought Kylie was crazy when she gave me my macros the first time. I was like, there's no possible way that I can eat that much food. But just trust the process, give it a little bit of time. Obviously, reach out if you feel like something's not working, but don't assume it's not working right away. If you know what I mean.
Yes, that's a great point. I mean, because we'll talk about this later, but you need 2 weeks of hitting your macros, plus or minus 5, before we really know if it's working. So we got to have consistency before we can change anything at all, everyone. So, and that's really the name of the game anyway. Tracking, not tracking, consistency over the long term. That's what we're after.
Yep.
Cool. Well, I put
Great.
Eat This Much app or Eat This Much website in the comments. I'll kind of make a separate post as well. But rock it out today, you guys. Keep entering your food. Don't worry about hitting your numbers just now. Let's just see where we're at and where we need to make adjustments. And then next week we can work on tweaking a little bit more. All right. Have a great afternoon. Have a great day.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Thanks, Leanne.
See ya.
Bye-bye.